All right, so we worked on 5 before. So always, okay, I see you tried to use the hand instrument a little bit in there. I see a little scratch on the facial wall. So it looks almost like an attempt to make a retentive groove right over there. Could do a little bit more on the lingual side. And don't forget to use the gingival margin trimmer to angle the gingival for us. We always finish every prep with the hand instruments.
Okay.
Okay, so what do you think about this one?
I think the gingival floor is a little bit wider.
Okay, so it's overextended axially. Yeah, by wider you mean wider mesial distally.
Yeah.
So how'd that happen? Now you're basically in the middle of the pulp chamber, right?
Yeah.
So how'd that happen?
I was trying to clear the gingival, get the gingival clearance.
Well, that's when it happened, but how did it happen? How'd you get so deep axially? Typically we get deep axially when we don't know where we are. So if you're not looking this way, if you're looking some other direction, you're always going to go too deep axially. If you're looking this way, you see where you are. So you'll always have total control over the axial wall position. I don't have to worry about going too deep axially because I can see exactly where I am, and I can see how close I am to the adjacent tooth. That's the whole thing. So we're not getting enough gingival clearance yet. So we put the burr where we want the corner to be, and we drill a hole and we cut away from that side. Put the burr over here, drill a hole, cut away from this side. And then when we get rid of the excess in between, then we'll see if we have any gingival clearance. Now we have more gingival clearance. But again, note the direction I'm looking. I'm looking so I can see exactly how close I am to the adjacent tooth and how deep I am axially. I can see everything. I don't have to see the whole burr to see where I am. Okay, so now you can get rid of the excess along this wall. See, you got a lot of undermined enamel there. Got a pretty big hook, so you'd actually have to move the margin way out here in order to get rid of the undermined enamel, and then make the corner, then get rid of the excess there. And then you'll make the retentive grooves about there and there. You can angle the gingival floor. We still have a little bit of excess right down here, but again, look along the wall so you know where you are. And then you'll never get way in here. You'll always control the axial wall if you're looking that way. This wall here at the marginal ridge is really short, isn't it? It's probably less than 1 millimeter.
Okay.
So you want to make it taller, and make sure when you're over here that you lean the burr toward the marginal ridge. Okay? So make it 1.5 millimeters tall with the burr leaning toward the marginal ridge. Keep the isthmus maybe a little bit more narrow. So it's always a matter of looking the right direction. Okay, so see if you can finish this one up and try to fix up the gingival part of the facial wall. Finish it with the hand instruments, and we'll see where you are then. Okay? Okay. All right. So we worked on this one for a little while. So yeah, so we started to establish some little bit better defined internal line angles, but you can always practice just coming back, and there's the corner and here's the wall. Get rid of the excess along that wall. Same thing over here. Practice looking in the right direction so you know where you are axially. And then one step at a time you're going to get some gingival clearance. Okay, so yeah, you put your dovetail in a place where it makes no sense. Your dovetail went right up into the triangular ridge. The dovetail should be near the marginal ridge, right? So look this way so you see where you're putting it. So that would have been a better place for the mesial wall here. Now the facial wall is pretty tall compared to the lingual wall. That means you've got your isthmus shifted facially. So if you're looking along the central groove when you're doing this part, and look how easy it is to look along the central groove in the mirror, right? Then you can center the isthmus exactly on the central groove and look this way so you can center this wall right where you want it relative to the marginal ridge and get the right height. Okay, so facial clearance is pretty good, and your wall's not very flat, but it's close to 90. I would probably give you a little more clearance to try to get a little closer to 90. Then come down the corner, then get rid of the excess along that wall.
I'm not able to see the buckle in the indirect vision.
Nobody can. That's the whole point.
Right. Because that's
So
why
look
I was
over
not
there.
getting the...
Look over there so you can see what I can see. Okay? So we do it a little bit at a time. We do the occlusal part, find the margin, find the angle, get the length, make the curve, make sure you're happy with the occlusal part, then use the burr and come down that wall, find the corner, then match the occlusal part, the gingival part to the occlusal part, then we're in good shape.
And it's too deep axially, right?
Yeah, should have been probably about right here, and then of course the axial should have been coming perpendicular to the facial wall. Now, in reality, of course, as I told you, and I forgot to double check this, we're doing composite preps now, right? So your exit angle here is pretty good. This one's too close to 90. It was a little bit acute before, so this one's a little bit obtuse, so that's fine for composite. Now the gingival floor width we want to be pretty small. We want to be pretty small for composite, even smaller than we have for amalgam. Keep the axial under control a bit more. Now the good news is that gingivally you have some damage down there. The good news is we can fix that. How am I going to fix that? Okay, so you guys pay attention to this. Is everybody here? Okay. So I'm going to show you how to make a gingival bevel. So here's the burr we use for making the gingival bevel. It's called an ET3F. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a gingival bevel, and it's going to actually include the damage that you did down here. So all that roughness that you have down there is going to go away now that we're making the gingival bevel. So that's nice. If it were an amalgam prep, you'd be in trouble. Okay, because you basically have a bevel here because you had too much excess tooth structure and you broke it off. That creates chips and bevels. For composite, it's okay, but here's the way I'm going to make a gingival bevel here. Start with the burr against the facial wall, cut gingially at the facial wall. Notice I'm looking down the facial wall, right? So down the wall, into the gingival margin, then away from the wall, then down this wall, and then cut into the gingival margin and then away from that wall toward the middle. When both bevels get to the middle and join, then you have a complete bevel all the way from the facial to lingual. Okay, so that's what we're looking to do. Now be careful to make sure you keep the burr vertical as much as you can in these preps. Once you start undercutting, then the prep gets much more difficult. Just keep the burr vertical as much as you can. Okay, and again, that's too close to 90 now for a composite prep. This is fine for a composite prep over here. But axially, you don't want to go that deep. Okay, even less deep than you do for amalgam. Okay, so now everybody knows how to make the gingival bevel, so we want to make sure we do that every time. All right, let's take a look here. So we worked on 5. Okay, so we had that vertical problem on 5. Okay, so over here you're undercutting the facial. So again, we're going to be really careful. Let's push this burr in farther, okay? When it's out that far, it's not as easy to control, is it? So let's get the burr in as far as it'll go. Be careful about your vertical angle. So over here you're undercutting again. So this is vertical. That's what you're doing. Okay?
I fractured it with the hand instrument.
I'm sorry?
I fractured it with the hand instrument.
Oh, the gingival?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the undercutting the facial wall. But also you have a lot of damage on the adjacent tooth again.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're leaning the burr into the adjacent tooth just like this. Notice when I look this way, I can see that you're leaning the burr into the adjacent tooth just like this. That's why we look this way, so that you can change it. Okay?
Yeah.
So the way I'm looking, I can see that you're leaning the burr into the adjacent tooth, and so could you. But if you look the way I am, then we can go ahead and keep the burr controlled relative to the adjacent tooth. I'll never hit the adjacent tooth if we're looking this way. Okay, and then look this way to make sure the burr is vertical, and then look this way when you're doing the prep. That's what we do. Now, again, you damage the gingival margin, but just like I showed her, you're going to bevel it, and then it's going to go away. It's going to be fine. This wall here is pretty close to 1.5 millimeters. I would probably keep it a little bit more parallel to the marginal ridge and leaning a little bit more obviously toward the marginal ridge. And you got a little wide in the isthmus. For composite, the prep should be about the burr width. You don't need to make it any wider than that. Okay, let's see bevel the gingival margin. And yeah, again, take some time to practice going gingival. You can go gingival, you can put the bevel on and then go gingival a few more times. You don't need to, but do it just for the practice. Even over here, go gingival a few more times, but look this way when you're doing it. Don't ever again look this way. Okay? All right. So everybody finish up your Class 2 composites within the next 20 minutes or so. And then take a break. If you have some food, you can eat it. Okay? If you don't, you could order it now. Maybe it'll be delivered. But anyway, then we'll start up again at 2:30. All right, so we talked about going deep gingerly, and I know, yeah, I'm just reviewing the subject on number 5 here.
Yes.
So we talked about leaning the burr toward the adjacent tooth too much and getting the sloping pulpal floor and getting too deep gingerly. So let's see how this one's coming along. Okay, a little bit less damage to the adjacent tooth. A lot of clearance though, huh? So this is reasonable clearance. This is way too much, isn't it? How'd you get your margin way out here?
I made a mistake. I thought that's a buccal cusp and then first started with it. So that's why.
But all you do is you just move your margins until you get clearance. That's all you do. I don't care whether it's facial or lingual. Just move the margin until you get clearance and then stop and then move inward.
Okay.
Okay? It doesn't have anything to do with which cusp it is. Okay, I'm going to go to the 55 burr. Okay, and so now, see there's a lot of excess on the facial side, see that? And by the way, you have extra burrs, so when the burr gets dull, put a new one in.
Sure.
You've got an extra batch of 55s and 57s. Where's your box? Oh, there it is, over there. Anyway, so let's get rid of all this excess on the facial. So once you find your margin and your angle and the length and the curve, then find the corner, then get rid of the excess. This is just part of the routine that we typically do. Still a little bit of excess down there. And then get a little bit right there, a little step right there. So now it's a nice clean wall, and there's a nice clean corner, and then you're okay. Okay, so your pulpal floor is a little bit more horizontal than on this side. Okay, but it's still leaning a little bit deeper toward the distal. And then look this way so you know where the corner is. You know where you are axially at the corner. So even if you're way overextended, you still want to make a nice corner, and your axial should be perpendicular to the lingual wall. Well, in this case, since it's composite prep, you're going to make a slightly obtuse angle. This is a nice 90-degree angle, but it's not appropriate for composite. This one's a little bit obtuse, but make it nice and clean. Make the margin well defined, then make the corner nice, and then get rid of the excess to match the gingival part to the occlusal part. Okay, and then we have a wall that we can work with, okay? All right, now gingival you went too far. Not as far as you did on the other side, but your clearance is 0.9, you only want 0.5. So
Let's stop a little.
you could have stopped. Yeah, you could have stopped before you got down that far. Okay, so it'll be a little harder for you to make a gingival bevel, but try it. Practice looking this way, getting rid of any excess that you have at that gingival floor so you get a nice smooth wall all the way to the margin. So we're always practicing looking this way so you know where you are axially, you know how close you are to the adjacent tooth, you know the angulation of the burr. All those things you need to see, so it's a matter of looking in the right direction as usual. By the way, if you want to start a prep over here, don't start shallow like that.
No, I've not started. It was before the surface like that.
It was already there?
Already been.
Oh, okay. So anyway, yeah. So, most of this is okay, but you're way too overextended lingually, and you got a lot of excess gingival extension. So, again, it's harder to go gingivally. It takes more skill, it takes more practice. So, do it more times, but you could have stopped before we got to this point. Now, sometimes we just go farther just for the practice, extra practice, doing those 7 steps. That's okay too. All right. So anyway, use your. You don't need to use your hand instruments to square up corners because it's a composite prep. But you can come back and try to define the corners, define the wall, define the margin. You can come back and redo these areas anytime you want, just for the practice. You can just basically do exactly what I'm doing again, just to get used to it. Then put on the gingival bevel, and then you're ready to take a little break. Okay? All right.